this up, and then I'm going to introduce you, Deb, and then we'll turn the floor over to you. I put my screen in presenter view. So if you go in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom, there's like gallery view. If you click on presenter view, what will happen is the screen will go large on your screen for the person who's doing the talking. So right now I should be kind of in the large screen, and then everybody else will go in a smaller thumbnail. And I'm just popping onto my Facebook on my phone, and we are live on Facebook. So I just want to welcome anybody who's watching from the Inforum page this morning. My name is Brenda Meller. I'm one of the affinity group co-leaders, the Fab Five, if you will, of the Troy group. And we are so delighted that you're joining us virtually, whether you're watching us live or maybe in playback. But what I'd like to do now is turn over to our guest presenter for today, who is actually one of our Fab Five co-leaders, Deborah Mourray. And Deb, I'll let you go ahead and take us from here.
All right, great. Thanks, Brenda, and it's great to be with everybody this morning. I am Deborah Mourray. I'm one of the Fab Five. I'm currently a free agent, so I'm between successes, as we often say in our Inforum group. Last stop was Walsh College, where I was an advisor, and looking forward to doing everything basically I was doing at Walsh: advising, consulting, prepping, career coaching. One of my real areas that I'm really excited about is career transition. I see a lot of people who are in transition, and I'm a great coach for that area. So happy to be here. I'm currently in Colorado. Woke up at 5 a.m. this morning to be on the call for 6 a.m., a little earlier than your time, and had the joy of experiencing the last all seasons this week in Colorado: spring, summer, fall, winter, snow. So glad to be here. And today we're talking about Barking Up the Wrong Tree, a book by Eric Baker. And some of you maybe have heard my tech talk, my talk about the surprising science behind TED Talks. So when I saw that title for this book, The Surprising Science Behind Why Everything You Know About Success is Mostly Wrong, I had to read it. So I'm going to give you a little overview. So we're going to talk about success, no surprise. We're going to start with a bunch of different areas. Does playing safe, or do you play by the rules, or do you break the rules? We're going to learn something about valedictorians. Where are they in the success story? Next, we'll look at, do nice guys finish first? Do they finish last? And then we're going to look at grit and resilience. What does it take to stay the course to be successful? After that, we're going to answer the age-old question: is it who you know or what you know? Yep, we're going to talk about networking. And then we're going to look at your attitude and confidence, that factor. Finally, we're going to look at the big picture to see how all this nonsense, the success, is there such a thing as work-life balance? So is it more about success of being perfect in life, or figuring out what your strength is? So thank you for sharing your strengths, because that's one of the key parts of the success conversation. What is your strength? And build around that. I would say my strength, one of mine, is being a fearless public speaker. Like, I love the thought of, if somebody needed a speaker and nobody showed up, I'd have something to say. So again, building on that strength. What is it about success? It's really up to you. You define it. Is it your raw talent? Is it the nice things your mom told you? Did your mom tell you to do the nice things? Or is it the opposite? Break the rules. Is our weakness actually a strength? So let's start with the high school valedictorian. She's got to be the success story in life, right? Straight A's, 4.0, plays by the rules, does everything she's told. Guess what? They did a survey of entrepreneurs, millionaires. Not one was a high school valedictorian. So the average GPA of the millionaires, the entrepreneurs, was 2.9. So that should give all of us not 4.0ers some encouragement. Like, you really don't have to be perfect. And think about it, valedictorians, they play by the rules. People who make it to the top really big, they can see outside the box. They're actually usually pretty good at breaking the rules. So let's talk about another great leader. This is what I loved about this book. The stories were never ending. Winston Churchill, his contemporaries knew he was brilliant, but he was a paranoid loose cannon. Anybody that worked with him said he was terrible to work with. But that one weakness, categorized as a strength, was what got him to see Hitler as the threat that he was. He was really one of the only world leaders that saw that. So again, working on that idea. All right, so what's a great leader? Let's think about it in some bigger terms. Gautam Mukunda, a researcher, provided an answer. Filtered leaders or an unfiltered leader. So what's a filtered leader? So a filtered leader is one who raises through the ranks, does the expected things, plays by the rules, is a team player. So that's one leader. Again, this is not a good, bad conversation. What's an unfiltered leader? Somebody who doesn't play by the rules, who brings change, big change sometimes, makes a difference, rocks the boat, breaks things. One example in our past presidents, Abraham Lincoln. You can imagine he was not brought up through the ranks. He was not military. He was not political. He was literally a farmer who was self-taught. And what tradition did he break that took like everything in him? Slavery. So, and part of this conversation about success, Mukunda discusses intensifiers. So what's an intensifier? It's something that about your success that contributes. So let's talk about Glenn Gould, the classic pianist. He was considered a genius at an early age. His intensifier was his exhaustible work ethic, 16-hour days, 100-hour weeks. He was a legend, music legend by the age of 28. So, and Mukunda says, most people are dandelions. We're going to thrive in many different situations, but occasionally there will be an orchid, maybe somebody like Glenn Gould, the pianist. He was very sensitive to everything. He was obsessive. He was very hard to deal with, but he had a well-tended, nice greenhouse to grow up in. His family was very supportive, and his beauty was unsurpassable. So now let's talk about another thought, a hopeful monster. Now that's kind of an interesting thought. So nature sometimes occasionally gives something very different. In the right environment, it can succeed. So again, the intensifier theory. If you were told that your son, about to have a baby boy, his upper body would be too long, his legs too short, his hands too big, his feet too big, and gangly arms, would you say as a mom, yay? Probably not. But when a swim coach hears these, he sees gold, Olympic gold, and that would be Michael Phelps. If you have done any reading on him, he's got all these unusual attributes physically that make him like an X-Men for one of his superpowers. So sometimes being great makes us actually, being different makes us actually great. So another story, the Israeli military needed people who could analyze satellite images for threats, and they needed soldiers who had amazing analyzing skills. They wouldn't get bored looking at the same thing all day long and notice subtle changes. They found the perfect recruits in a very unlikely place. They began recruiting people with autism. So again, interesting, right? You think that's a weakness, and what are you ever going to do? It actually was a strength. Now let's talk about Steve Jobs. Now, you know, we're going to talk about him in the success world. He's crazy successful. In 2000, he was worried that Pixar was losing its creative edge. How did he address his creativity crisis? Leaning on Pixar's top performers? No, this was not the time for filtered talent. His plan was to look for unfiltered talent. He wanted the black sheep, artists who were frustrated, artists, the ones who had another way of doing things that made everybody else crazy. And that was his team. His project produced The Incredibles. It grossed over 600 million and won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. So another short example, Formula One cars. They're undrivable on city streets, but on the track, they make records. So back to the original question, how do I get to be more successful in life? Get to know yourself. That's really what this whole talk is about. Everything you see, all your strengths that you wrote over there, get in tune with those. And that will help you if you're a filtered or unfiltered leader. And so what are your strengths? So they are things that consistently produce your desired results. So look at what you're consistently, naturally good at. Now let's talk about, do nice guys finish first? Do they finish last? Where does that story? So some studies show that as long as you keep your boss happy, performance doesn't really matter much. That's not a really happy thought for a boss. And by contrast, if you upset them, performance won't really save you. I think we all have a few stories in our storied careers about how somebody pissed off the boss, and no matter how great they were, out the door they went. So now let's talk about prison, pirates and prison gangs. So success, that's an interesting segue. But think about it. They're in an organization. They have to produce successes, even though it's like, mischievous and taking other people's things. But prison gangs and pirates, they have one thing in common. They have an organization they have to run. Why were pirates so successful? Because they treated their people well. They were democratic. Side note, according to pirate expert Angus Costrom, the famed pirate Blackbeard, over the course of his career, killed exactly 0 people. And no record of anybody walking the plank. Nope, not one. So why do we have the impression that pirates are bloodthirsty savages? Brenda, you're going to love this. It's marketing and branding. They marketed themselves as bloodthirsty savages that would be crazy. And they never really were, but their marketing and branding worked. So they didn't have to fight every fight. Now, all right, so let's go to the statistics again. Do nice guys finish last? Yes. There you go. But do they also finish first? Yes. So let's talk about givers. They're the nice guys that are at the top of the spectrum and the bottom. And let's look at matchers. They are people who consistently give balance, and the takers who generally take more than they give. So the givers end up usually at the top of the spectrum of success and at the bottom. Sometimes you're too nice. Sometimes you're at the top and you manage it. Matchers and takers tend to be in the middle. So again, sometimes those extremes are good. Matchers usually wait to get opportunities, where takers jump in quickly and take the short-term gain, where givers will jump in early and volunteer and get related, make friends, and stay long-term, stay the distance. All this talking early in the morning. I got to get my voice ready. All right. Do quitters never win? Do winners never quit? So where in this conversation should we not give up? Where should we give up? Sometimes you find that people that are most frustrated in life don't know when to quit. So again, there's a conversation stream along the way, and it could be different for you and different for somebody sitting next to you. So when we talk about when to quit and when not to quit, let's talk about games. Like, why are games so often? Because sometimes that's really the conversation. So for a game to be awesome, it has to be winnable. It should have some challenges, goals, and feedback. This sounds like one of those management courses, doesn't it? SMART, all those things. So why isn't your job fun? The simple answer is work as we know it today usually is a lousy game. Good games can change struggle to something else fun. So when you add those features to a job environment, you could actually create, number one, more fun and more productivity. Because winnable games are good by design. What you do is important. Your actions do make a difference. You need challenges. Good games continually have new levels, new things to achieve. At work, we know this. When we have different rollout of new goals, people get inspired. You get then the inspiration falls off. You need a new goal. You need a new challenge. Feedback. We need feedback. If you're doing it right, let somebody know. Awards, points, give them a brownie, give them a piece of pie. Keep going by giving frequent feedback. Brenda, you're throughout my speech. I'm sorry. And you were in the book if the pie story comes up. So let's look at the upside to quitting. What W.C. Fields once said, if at first you don't succeed, try again, then give up. There's no use in being a damn fool about it. So what is the opportunity cost? There's a business conversation. What's the price of doing something? What do you need to give up about it? Once you find something you are passionate about, quitting secondary things can be an advantage. Olympians know this well. They are focused on their sport, and all things have got to go to the wayside. I'm guessing most Olympians don't go to the movies as much as I used to. All right, so another aspect of success is failure. Let's talk about that, because you've got to fail once in a while to succeed, right? And don't be afraid of it. So the Silicon Valley mantra, fail fast, fail cheap, fail early, in the early stages when it's cheap, not later when you build up massive capital and it's expensive. So another great story. Here's this called the spaghetti problem. What is the spaghetti problem? So how do you build? So if you're given a problem, here you're going to build the tallest structure you can to support a marshmallow. It's got to be freestanding. You've got to do it in 18 minutes. You've got a group to do it. I'm going to give you 20 pieces of dry spaghetti, 1 meter of tape, a piece of string, and a marshmallow. Go to it. All right. So Peter Skillman, general manager of Smart Things at Microsoft, ran this challenge for over 5 years, testing more than 700 people, including engineers, managers, MBA students. Who outperformed everyone? Wait for it. Kindergartners. Yes, 6-year-olds beat everyone. In fact, the MBA students were the lowest performing in the group. Okay, sorry, so that's not all our MBAs, but think of it. MBAs, I could imagine the students were very theoretical, very organized, very structured, probably had a chart or two on the wall, did a lot of conversation. 6-year-olds, they were playing. Let's go for it. Prototype test, fail, no fear of failure. Again, a different story, right? So, all right, now we get to our favorite part, and how could it not be? That's why we're here, networking. Is it what you know, or is it who you know? Unless it is really what you know. So you knew it sooner or later we'd be talking about networking. Why wouldn't we? That's what we're here doing. Well, here it is, and we are networking. So networking isn't a skill you have to learn. It's a skill you already know. You need to make friends. So I personally spoke to students about this many times, interested in learning to network. I'm like, nope, you don't have to learn it. You already know how to do it. Go make some friends. How do you make friends? Get interested in people. Show genuine interest. Don't make it transactional. That will kill it. If it sounds like work, focus on making friends. It will change your perspective. All right, now another great story, making friends. World War II rages on, and the UK was being pounded by Hitler's planes. They were doing massive research, and they developed a breakthrough technology called the cavity magnetron. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Well, it's something most of us have in our kitchen today. It's a microwave used for radar technology. They needed to manufacture it on a large scale and realized they needed help. The resources to make a dream reality. The radiation lab at MIT, so they checked in with the US, headed up the project. The secret name, the RAD Lab. So it always helps to have a cool name for a project, right? 3,500 people were employed, the most brilliant minds of our generations. The advancements were spectacular. One of their systems was responsible for taking out 85% of the German bombers, which had been tearing down London. Another type of radar was so sensitive it could detect periscopes on submarines. It allowed the Allies to gain the advantage in the sea. Let's get back to making the friends part of the story. You know, we're about friends. Because of this tremendous success would be realized in the battlefield, the Rad Lab had one enormous problem before they could get successful. Testing the new radar off the Charles River to Cambridge kept experiencing failures time and again and again and again. They knew the science was right. Why wasn't it working? It felt like some great power was actively working against them. Was it God? Well, they were right. It was a great power. It wasn't God. It was Harvard. Unbeknownst to MIT, the radio research lab at Harvard had received millions of dollars from the US government to secretly develop radar jamming technology that they were testing on the other side of the Charles River. So Harvard's efforts at jamming radar were so successful. One day they actually brought down all the communications at the Boston Police Department. Luckily, before the MIT researchers went insane and gave up, the presence of their unintentional enemy, Harvard, across the river, became known to them. And then a new type of powerful collaboration began a healthy rivalry. MIT redoubled their efforts to overcome the jamming. Guess what? It became fun. It was our team against your team. So with Harvard's help, MIT's radar became devastating. Many now believe that radar is actually what won the war. So when we collaborate, including in healthy rivalries, the gains can be exponential. When we don't communicate, we cannot end up only missing out on those benefits, but also getting our efforts jammed by our friends. So back again, making friends, just like making friends, get to know your neighbors. Making friends is simple. Be socially optimistic. Assume that people will like you, and they probably will. Remember Robert Fulghum's bestseller, All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten? Get your crayons and blankies out. Yep, we're going to make new friends. Kindergartners are fearless with making friends. You like Iron Man? I love Iron Man. You like mushrooms? Oh my God, have I got some mushroom stories for you. Instant friendship, right? Listen and encourage friends. Stop thinking about what you're going to say next. Focus on what they're saying. Be a giver. Share your Twinkies or your pie or your coffee. When people say they are having trouble, find a way, help them. Start with friends you already have. Facebook, LinkedIn, wait for it, Inforum. Check in. Hey, what's up? How are you? How is your COVID life? Find your super connectors. There are people in your network who seem to know everybody. Check in with them. I need help in this area. Who do you know that knows? People love to help. Make it a priority. Yep. Does money bring happiness? Yes. When we spend it on people we love. Send a text, buy somebody a cup of coffee, make a new friend. Join groups. Well, here we are at Inforum. We have a great group. The cool thing about our group, we've already got the fun advantage. We've got groups, you like wine, you like beer, sports, maybe helping out lady bosses. And we got so many different opportunities, but you do have to commit some time to it. You do have to attend the meeting. So yeah, there it is. Find your group. We're naturally supportive to each other. This is how successful people move forward. And you're going to need a mentor. When interviewed, every single successful female executive had a mentor. Again, friendship at a different level, right? Even if you're starting your own company. Brenda's done this in so many different areas. Use many different people as resources. And all this let's make friends talk is great, but now let's like just jump in a little bit. Let's talk about dealing with people who are difficult. Because you are going to, I'm sure we all have a few story or two about that. So one of the stories they talk about in the book is Harvey Schlossberger, a police detective with a PhD in psychology, this was in the 70s, had an idea. How about instead of in hostage situations, how about instead of going in guns blazing, How about let's talk to people? Let's give them a chance. So hostage negotiating. He wrote a playbook on negotiating techniques, talking to people. And immediately they had a situation that was put to test. So overall, it went from a 75% casualty rate in these hostage situations to a 95% success rate. So what's the motto to the day? Talk to me. When you get in a situation that's difficult, we tend to shut down and not want to talk, and sometimes we'll start arguing. And that often goes sideways because when we're arguing, nothing gets accomplished, right? Al Bernstein, a clinical psychologist, agrees. He calls it the Godzilla versus Rodin effect. I love this. Now we got monsters in our story. So when a person starts yelling and you start yelling, use the metaphor. Buildings get knocked over, Tokyo gets leveled, very little gets accomplished. I'm just trying to explain is a trap. It means you're still focusing on winning and you're not listening. Although we are not dealing with life and death situations like the police department, our dinosaur brain assumes every dispute is an existential threat. The argument over who should take out the trash is life or death. Again, these are not, when you're getting these arguments, they're not terrorists making demands. Usually they're just people who are upset and want to be heard. So start listening, ask questions, and don't just give one question, ask another question, because usually the answer doesn't come out in the first response. Be patient. So why is friendship such a powerful model in dealing with people? It comes down to value creation. When we're stuck in a bargaining mode and constantly calculating, those gains will be short term. But if we establish loyalty and friendship, the competitive nature can still be there, but we'll tend to exchange more information, explore new ways. And instead of trying to get a bigger slice of the pie, we can actually expand our pie, make it bigger for everybody. So you're going to use active listening. Listen, let them know you're listening. Don't make statements. Don't judge. Listen and acknowledge. Your goal is to hear the reply exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. That's when you know you've got to the point. So make them think, what would you like me to do? Don't solve the problem for them. Get their buy-in, help them solve the problem. They're more likely to do it. It will solve, they'll be more likely to actually follow through. And then another part of this success, making friends, expressing gratitude along the way. It truly is magical when you think about it. Why is expressing gratitude so magical? It can't help but make two people happy. So how often in a conversation do you get that? So now that we've made a lot of friends along the way, let's summarize. You got to check out and see what kind of leadership you are, filtered or unfiltered. Make sure you pick the right pond. Unfiltered managers do not do well in structured environments. They will die. I'm guessing an unfiltered manager will do great in a new tech startup. They need to break things. They need new ideas. Remember the elevator story. Brenda, we had this on discussion with your speaker this week. I loved her elevator story. It's not like you just getting in the elevator and going to the top. Get your team in with you. Bring them up. Bring everybody up. It's not just about you. Your network does influence you. Like it or not, make sure it's a good one. Mom was right in this area. Don't hang out with bad people. Gratitude is the tactical nuke of happiness and the cornerstone of long-lasting relationships. Believe in yourself. Successful people consistently over time rate themselves high in confidence. And why is that so good? Because it gives you confidence, gives you a sense of control. People also believe they can succeed when they see opportunities, not as others see threats. So what about faking it? We've also heard fake it till you make it. Well, this does work sometimes. If you're having a bad day, if you're not feeling good, put a smile on your face. It will help. But now the downside to faking it, being overconfident in certain areas, doesn't work. For instance, there's no such thing as a pretty good alligator wrestler. This is an area where overconfidence will not help you. Incompetence, it's interesting because incompetence, if you think of it, it's usually a problem of inexperienced people, generally new in the game. Overconfidence is kind of a bigger problem. It's usually people at the other end, and they can actually do more damage because they have bigger, inexperienced people. You can, again, fail early, it's cheaper. So, and another thing, listening to other people's ideas actually can make you smarter. But the catch is you need to really look at the other perspective, the other person's perspective, and you do have to pay attention. So another example, easy example of an overconfidence, think of a teenage driver. That's all I need to say about that. Overconfident. Final question. How hard do you really need to work to be successful? What's the work-life balance? Success is not for the lazy. The athletes know this. Voluminous productivity is the rule, not the exception, among individuals who have made noteworthy contributions. Even hairstylist Vidal Sassoon once quipped, the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. So yes, you will have to work. There is some stamina that's going to be required. And there is such a thing as the price law. Dan Key-Simonton, top 10% of workers produce 80% or more than the average worker. They actually produce 700% more than the bottom 10%. Hard work? How about meaningful work? How about instead of working hard, make it meaningful? And this is what I've gone over with students a lot with studying. Hard work, studying is good. It's exhausting. But what's even smarter, studying with a friend, making it easier. You'll actually get better results. And look at what your signature strengths are. Sometimes they are the biggest happiness boosting activities of all. How about parenting? Long hours, stressful, thankless. In the end, mom and dad usually say the most rewarding and meaningful career. So your career is no different. Grit, burnout. Burnout is the flip side of grit. Again, work hard, but at some point, there's a balance that you have to look at. The problem that in the quest for more, there's no finish line. It's a pie eating contest, and the first prize is more pie. So become a chooser, not a picker. Pickers just take what's in front of them and make it work. Choosers think about what will actually make a difference. It may not be what's in front. You may have to develop something new. Then, okay, we're going to get to it. Need a plan. You knew I was going to talk about it. We need a plan. Another great story. Most of us don't take time to make a plan. We're reactive. So let's talk about Genghis Khan. How did he conquer the world? He had a plan. How did he build an empire that spanned over 12 million contiguous miles with an army no larger than maybe 100,000? First, friends. He set out to create all the tribes of the steppe to get together as friends. He established meritocracy where skill and loyalty were rewarded. Bloodlines and politics were ignored. This is my favorite part. He abolished wife napping. I didn't even knew that was a thing. Glad it was abolished. Sure, I wouldn't have liked it. But again, his strategy was not to beat his enemies at his own game, but to use the advantages that naturally came to his people. Mongols rode horses from the age of 3. Simple people, no modern technology, like they were peasants. They traveled in smaller groups, lived off the land, but there were always new challenges. Another key point, Genghis Khan was adaptable. He learned from each skirmish. There were things he didn't have to learn. He hired new talent. He was big on recruiting new talent. So his recruiting new talent might have looked like capturing the opposing team, but instead of executing them, he made them their general. So again, go out and get talent that you may not see as being the perfect for you. So And his plans were so solid that the empire didn't crumble after his death. It kept expanding for another 150 years. Next time you mail a letter, think of Genghis Khan. His reign brought us the first international postal system. Didn't see that one coming. Okay, summary. Success is not the result of any single quality. It's about an alignment between who you are and where you choose to be. The right skill in the right role. A good person surrounded by other good people. A story that connects you to the world in a way that keeps you going. A network that helps you. A job that leverages your natural introvert or extrovert characteristics. How do you find alignment? We're back to it. Know yourself. Know your intensifiers. Are you a giver, a taker, a matcher? Overconfident, underconfident. Think of it. Overconfident people are great, but what does an underconfident person have that an overconfident does? Sometimes they're more open to learning and more willing to asking questions. So again, different sides of the coin. Find out what you are. Make use of it. The most important alignment, being connected to a group of friends. You'll find this in all the stories about at the end of the day, I wish I would have, tears at the grave. I wish I would have talked to more friends. I wish I would have done this. It's usually about friendship and loved ones who help you become the person you want to be. That's my success. Let's talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deb. And I'm going to go ahead and end the live broadcast. So thank you all for watching us live on Facebook. We're stopping the live so we can have a very candid Q&A. So that's why we're stopping the live right now. So give me just a second here.